Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I'm back after a long absence, right, of 6 days. Welcome to the third episode of the Unlimited Podcast, the first sports edition of the podcast. I'm your host, Matt from Unlimited, the usual, just doing my own thing, as always. Here to give you a little bit of a different podcast for you. We're going to talk about today's sports, and to do that, we have two very special guests. Go ahead.
I'm Bret Litke. I write for NHL sites. I've written for Matt Meff's site as well, and you'll find me. I'm a big fan of other sports. So that's why I'm hopping on here, and the other joining me.
Yeah. My name is Dylan Messerschmidt. I'm a recent college graduate of Westchester University of Pennsylvania, and I'm your standard run-of-the-mill journalist. Don't exactly specify with any subject, not even sports, but I do frequently view pretty much every major sport, and I am happy to be here talking to you today, Mr. Litke.
Yes, I'm sure we can enlighten Matt with some of our ideas. Matt?
Indeed,
yeah, absolutely. Indeed. I'm looking forward to it. This is going to go a little bit differently. You're not really going to be hearing that much from me. I'm more so going to be a devil's advocate or a third wheel, if you will, with this date between Cowbell and Bret. They're going to be talking about sports currently, obviously the big four major sports, hockey, baseball, basketball, football. They're going to also talk about some other sports like tennis. They're going to talk about what they would change in all of these sports, which is very interesting to hear because, you know, not everyone likes the current system of every sport. Not everyone appreciates it. Not everyone respects it. And it's interesting to hear a different side of it, like what you would do differently. So without any further ado, I guess I'll just let you guys take it away because I don't know what you guys have prepared.
Yeah, so it's not unplanned or anything sort of like that. We intended it to be this way. We're going to be throwing it at Meff sort of as how you listeners would hear it, these changes, and we'll get a more genuine, real, raw reaction to our ideas. We decided to do this. It's kind of random, but you know, you critique a team and you say, well, how would I make this team better? I'd trade this player, I'd sign this player. But how often do we ever really look at the broader picture? So that's where Cowbell and I kind of came up with this idea of, well, let's break it down in the sports and what do we want to change? Everything can get better. There's new generation coming up with lesser attention spans who are going to have different expectations for their sports. So how do we get it better? What are some things that we think, right? So, and just to kind of preface this before, we don't want to set any poor expectations. These ideas aren't so radical that, hockey's going to 3-on-3. No, like we're not going to be dramatically changing the record books. We don't
not at all.
Exactly. Hockey 3-on-3, Wayne Gretzky's point records would be done in 2 years. No, we're not doing that. But we're also doing enough to make waves. So we've sort of found that balance. Anything else you want to add, Cowbell, before we kind of kick it off with some sports here?
I think you just about covered everything. Yeah, these are just like minor adjustments to the games that we all know and love that in our opinions would make them more enjoyable for a broader audience, and like Bret said, for a new generation of sports fans.
Yeah, and so what we'll do, we'll start with one. Maybe we'll start basketball. I think that's probably where we can start, and we'll work our way.
Sure.
We'll find our way, navigate our way through here. We'll start with one that's kind of an introductory one, pretty easy. It's already been talked about a little bit. We'll break it down. We'll see what Matt thinks. And then from there, we can kind of start to ramp it up a little bit. So I'll kick it off right here. Basketball, let's add a 4-point line. I think got all these perimeter shooters in the NBA now. They're getting threes are becoming routine. I think it had a bit more scoring. Cowbell, what do you think?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, it's, trends come and go, and currently, the trend is to just put that ball out beyond the arc and just let it fly. There's guys who specialize in that nowadays. Obviously, Stephen Curry of the Golden State Warriors is pretty much the poster boy for that. And I think you might as well just encourage it from a rule standpoint. You might as well just encourage this trend. It's certainly not going away. So you might as well just toss another point in there and just see how accurate and how precise these shooters can be. Could be exciting.
So, Matt, what is your initial thoughts on our first idea, the 4-point line in basketball? What do you think hearing that for the first time?
It would definitely be interesting, to say the least. Going back to Cowbell's point earlier, the era of driving to the basket, the proverbial driving to the basket, is pretty much close to dying. And it's now all about getting as many points as possible with threes. So you know what? Since it's pretty much not going away, why not? I actually completely agree with this.
It's good to hear. A lot of people actually don't know that there didn't used to be a 3-point line. So the 3-point line was an addition, and you wouldn't even have to make the court bigger. You wouldn't have to have it go all the way to the baseline even. You could just have it start up higher and sort of just come back. So it's more of a further back, and it would dramatically change defensive schemes. It would totally liven up the game, and strategies would change completely. I think it's a great idea. I'm happy to hear that you think it's a good idea. Cowbell thinks it is too.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, there we go. So maybe let's move on to another one. Cowbell, if you have one, let's.
Yeah, and this one might seem a little obvious, but I think it's still fairly relevant. I think it has a couple more talking points to it, but I think we're all well aware of news that the NFL is facing as far as what fans want and what the league seems to want. It seems to be at a crossroads in a lot of different ways regarding that in recent years. And a lot of people point to one of the major problems being how the players are allowed to conduct themselves on the field. A lot of people say that they're not allowed to really show their personality or act as flamboyant as they used to. And as a result, they're always walking. It seems like they're walking on eggshells. They're not allowed to celebrate touchdowns the way that they used to. They're not allowed to wear certain kinds of gear that they used to. And a lot of people are just saying it's taking away from the fun of the league. So that these rules that just sort of limit the personalities of the players be taken away a bit. And it wouldn't have to all be once at the same time. I mean, obviously the current administration is pretty big on what's going on with all this right now. I mean, you could certainly dial back on it. And I think what that would allow is for players to shine more. And the more that you have players that stand out, the more marketable players that you have. Jersey sales go up, views go up, and overall viewership of games and fan bases for teams would just go up. So I think it's a win-win for everyone.
I'm on board with you there, Cowbell. One of my favorite moments of sports over the last couple of years was when Antonio Brown got the touchdown, and he runs full-fledged into the goalpost with his legs spread, and he hits it 100 miles an hour. And the league hated it, and this and that, and these players getting fined for their cleats and stuff. I think it's silly. Open it up. Let these players be who they are. We want to see who they are. We want their personality. We want to see, are they jerks? Well, let's hate them. But are they great guys? Are they funny? Well, let's love them. What do you think about that, Meth? Do you think the NFL's right holding it off, or should they let it loose a little bit?
I think both the NFL and the players need to look at it like this. This is a game, a sport. It's not a personality contest. I personally don't think the players should be judged for how they act in terms of celebrations. like that. When you score a touchdown, do you just stand there and do nothing? No, you celebrate it. Like, it's something to be proud of. You got your team on the board. It's like in baseball when, you have David Ortiz, for example. He hits a home run and he flips the bat. Like, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with a clap? What's wrong with a dance, a cheer, something? But in the case of the NFL, celebrations, they're common, they're normal, they're part of pretty much like positivity. They're part of life. It's a part of life. But when it comes to the players, they don't need to take it over the top. Like you said, running into the post, like that's not really necessary. But I don't really see an issue with it, honestly.
Looks like we're all in agreement. I guess it's good for our rules. I mean, it's showing some promise, that's for sure. But I do understand where maybe it is taking a little bit over the top with the running into a goalpost. But I think that stuff's kind of funny. If we're ready to move on, maybe we could do one more. Another one. Well, not just one more. We have a bunch more, but we can move on. Let's do football. Now, this one is a little bit of an interesting one. It'd have to be regulated, but I feel pretty vehemently about this. Cowbell does as well. We watch these games, and it seems like we see so many great catches taken away because of silly rules. Oh, that wasn't a catch. Oh, his foot was touching the white line. I think a really neat idea for a football NFL, and maybe you could test drive it in the CFL, I don't know, would be per team, almost like a timeout, but you only get one per game, would be to allow one out-of-bounds catch per game, per team. How far out of bounds? Well, maybe it's just a foot. Who knows? But to allow one out-of-bounds catch per game per team. What are your thoughts on that, Cowbell? What do you think?
I think that's just a tremendous idea. Again, we were talking about trends that sort of just take over, style of play, what have you, and the pass, especially the longer passes, they're becoming, obviously they've always been the more exciting plays, but especially in the NFL right now, we could really use more of that. Everybody's leaning towards a more conservative style of play. I think you add something like that, and you really open up the possibilities for some more offensive excitement. If another opportunity for that big catch, another chance for the crowd to really get on their feet, get energetic, and it can be a real momentum shifter for the offense as well. So I think it would shake up the game a bit, but I think in the end it would be in a positive way.
And before we go to Matt here, I just want to say I agree with the momentum shift. There's so many times where it's just like, oh man, if this team would have just had that one catch, they maybe could have tied it up. And tie games going in overtime that sells football games. And one out of bounds catch, if you hadn't used it all game and all of a sudden you have that tool in your repertoire for the fourth quarter, like, that is exciting. What are your thoughts, Matt?
I kind of think that defeats the purpose of having bounds. But I get your argument, though. I think that the refs and specifically the NFL in general should have a better understanding of how to define a catch, because you see so many catches that, they caught it, they had control of it, but one of their feet were out of bounds, or they crossed the line of the end zone, but their knees hit first. I think that if you have control of the ball in whatever way, shape, or form, the ball could be in between your legs for all that matters to me. As long as you have some sort of control of it, that should count. But the out-of-bounds rule, I don't know about that. I kind of disagree with that.
Well, Mephi, you got to think of it like that. I mean, also, you said it yourself. There's so much confusion often regarding what is a catch, and going back to the momentum part of it, and going back to holding fans' attention. how many times in a big game has the game just stopped and just all momentum just has been killed because a catch has to be reviewed and the commentators have to explain every little rule regarding this. I mean, this could be a big part of removing that and getting rid of some confusion and just keeping the game moving as it should.
And before you jump in there, Matt, as well, I don't think it eliminates the need for bounds either. I think it's only once a game. So you have the bounds for the rest of the game. So it's only once a game. And football is not like hockey or indoor soccer where it's contained with glass and boards. It's wide open. And it kind of gets messy in that sort of sense where the ball is just always out of bounds. So to allow at least just a little bit of flexibility with one catch per game, I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think it eliminates the need for bounds, just has a little fun with it.
I could see that argument, but I don't know. I just don't really agree with the rule itself. But yeah, that's all I pretty much have to say.
Yeah, I mean, and you have to think about how silly of a concept it is to think that these giant athletic football players are going to be contained by simple white paint on some grass. I mean, this is why the Arena League was created to begin with. You might just call it the superior progression of the sport. You know, put in the obvious, put in walls. That kills all confusion. Mm-hmm. But for the moment, the more popular version of the sport still involves a flat field. But maybe we could think up some changes for that in the future to try to further eliminate confusion.
Yes.
And some complicated rules. I think that would be nice.
Well, and something kind of out of the realm from maybe where we went, but something definitely on the horizon is 3D printers, 3D technology, sort of how we shift shapes and whatnot in the future. Our technology of how we're going to be able to conform solid objects and whatnot is going to adjust that. Like you said, I think that's something in 20 years we're going to be looking back going, can you imagine they played with just some chalk on the ground when we could be having hologramic lasers that stop the ball, and you don't, you know.
They're gonna turn an NFL field into like a touchscreen field.
It's true, and that's why I think this makes sense. Get rid of let them have one out of bounds catch per game, because that's the way the game's probably going to trend eventually. But I mean, hey, there's our first one that we disagreed on. But that's good. Good to have some debate, healthy debate and discussion. That's what this is all for.
Yeah, spurs ideas and conversation.
Exactly. So, Cowbell, do you have one to share, a new idea?
Yeah, this is something that I've actually discussed with you guys about, and not being entirely up on every rule of baseball like you guys are. We've talked about this a bit, but I still think it's something that should be explored a little more. And that's the idea of players, runners being out by simply getting hit with the baseball. I mean, you see it in every other version, such as dodgeball and stuff like that. And I mean, if you think about it, you know, fans like excitement and even a bit of danger, you know, and there's not all that much in baseball. And there's more of it being added to every other sport. I mean, MMA is rising in popularity for just that reason. So, I mean, you fire the little tight ball at somebody, yeah, they might get a welt in their back or something like that. But, I mean, in reality, they're the runners. They should really have it coming because the pitcher is constantly worrying about his shoulder getting torn apart. I mean, it's the least that they can do. You know, balance out the danger factor.
Well, and even if you had to add a little bit more equipment to the player, like a back shield or a front shield, or even like a neck shield, I don't see what's wrong with that. Players get hit with the ball anyways and they're out, so then why can't you just toss it at him? I mean, we're not talking like, oh, I'm going to throw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball at this guy's head, but if this guy's running to first and I think I've got my throw blocked at first, why can't I throw the ball at him to get him out? It kind of makes sense, and like you said, it kind of appeals to that blood-hungry, bloodthirsty UFC crowd. Mm-hmm. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely a different way to do that. It kind of not really eliminates it, but the spectacular play, like, you know, a diving stop and his glove happens to hit the bag, stuff like that. Now there's really no need for that. when you can just throw it at them. But I see what you're saying. I understand it. It's definitely a different way to do it, and I don't really mind it that much.
Yeah, there would certainly be a possibility of
there would definitely be a
that
shift of defense, like a shift of play. You definitely see that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think at the same time, while you may be sacrificing, the amazing, sliding to the base and stuff like that, I think at the same time you may also see, more instead have it replaced with a sort of exciting play where maybe somebody at shortstop just tries to fire it across, somebody going from first to second, and then you have that split second of suspense. As the ball travels through the air, is it going to hit them? Is it not going to hit them? It's just another test of skill as far as accuracy goes. These are all professionally trained baseball players. They should be good at throwing, but it's just another test of skill. And that's something new that could crop up.
Well, and Matt, one thing I'll ask is the 2004 Red Sox run. What was one of the most iconic images of that run with Curt Schilling? What was the iconic image with him?
The sock. That, right?
The bloody sock.
Yeah.
Violence. Not violence, but injury. Injury intrigues people and their ability to fight through it and come up clutch. Now, imagine Josh Donaldson, World Series, and he's running, he's trying to steal third, and he gets thrown. Like the ball just gets chucked and maybe breaks a rib or something. I don't know.
Oh.
These are the rules of the game. This is what hockey players deal with. So baseball players, welcome to the 21st century. He breaks a rib. But now he comes up in the 9th inning. It's his turn to bat. He has the broken rib. He's laboring. Will he hit that home run, or is he in too much pain? Should they have taken him out? Shouldn't they have not? What if he comes up clutch? You've just added another element to the story that otherwise wouldn't have even been there. And that's what I think. I think, wow, think of the drama that could be added.
Agreed.
Totally agree.
There we go.
I actually have one.
Oh, what's yours?
This doesn't really have a lot to do with play itself of sports. The idea of fan voting for All-Star games is something that's actually bothered me, because every year you get players that just do not deserve it. Like I remember one year, the fans voted in like 7 Royals starters, and I could make an argument against like 3 or 4 of them being in the All-Star game. Omar Infante should not be starting an All-Star game with a .210 batting average. That's just the way it is. You look at football players and basketball players that are bench players. They're nothing more than just bench players. It's hockey too. It wasn't a hockey captain a couple years ago. He got in for fan voting, and how many games did he play? Like 1? Yeah. And I remember a couple of years ago, too, Derek Jeter didn't even play a single Major League Baseball game, and he had the most write-in votes in history. And he didn't even play a game. So, to me, I think eliminating fan voting is the way to go. I think it should go more so to the managers of the team, or it should go to the league itself to pick the best players. There are going to be snubs either way, but at least whoever is in the All-Star game undoubtedly deserves it. What do you guys think?
Well, it's kind of funny that you brought that up. Again, wasn't planned, so you're kind of getting me here. But I do agree, because there's for a while there it was almost random. All these, like John Scott was the man you mentioned from the NHL last year. And it was like, well, if you're going to be that random, I had actually filed a motion to have all players just chosen randomly. You put all the names in sort of a computer system that can just select, I think there's like 40 players that get taken to the game, and just select 40 random people, and they're your all-stars. The reason why I said that was, well, the fans argued, well, John Scott and these other players who get in, and well, they only played one game. Well, they're still good enough to be playing in the game. Well, if you did it randomly, you'd be saying, well, all our players in the league are special. All of them are great, and the only fair, not democratic way, but the only fair way to do it is by lottery. So perhaps in baseball, you'd have Billy Hamilton with maybe then you'd have a good player like Josh Donaldson, but then you'd maybe have Kyle Seager, but then, you know what I mean? You'd have this whole fluctuation with just a bunch of random players from all around the league, but that come together for this game to sort of represent the everyman of baseball, the highs and the lows of any sport, really, I guess. Cowbell?
Yeah, I agree with both of you. So I guess you would have two options there, a bit of a fork in the road, if you will. I suppose on one hand, you would have to pretty much take it entirely out of the hands of the fans, because at the end of the day, I mean, not everybody watching the sport is going to be completely objective about it. They're not going to have a handle on all of the stats and happenings. You know, some people are just going to pick whoever they want to pick. So I guess your option would be to, just take it completely out of the hands of the fans. Or the other option would be to leave it in the hands of the fans, but then maybe not call it an all-star game. You know what I mean? Because I think there's still some value in leaving it up to the fans, you know, because it's still a fairly exciting aspect, you know, like almost it's like a like a variety night or something like that, you know, like the fans almost get to choose the game. And I think that's a fairly exciting aspect in itself. Just don't call it something that's not an all-star game, because obviously, like, these, you know, because if we're going to admit that these, like, aren't the best players in the league that you're putting forward, then why call it an all-star game? What was the example from this NBA season? Russell Westbrook, whose stats pretty much almost blew away almost everybody else in the entire NBA, was not in the all-star game. And that just wasn't right. But, I mean, he wasn't there. And that was pretty much because of the fans. There's nothing that they can really do about that. But, I mean, you eliminate that and, you know, you still have something unique. You know, you still have all these unique lineups coming together and creating a new and exciting game.
Exactly. Like, you get that what-if factor. Like, in baseball, you know, what if Mike Trout and Miguel Cabrera were in the same lineup? What if you had a starting rotation of Clayton Kershaw, Noah Syndergaard, and, you know, guys like that? To me, you know, I really wish fan voting would go away. Another example, I know, Cowbell, you just mentioned Russell Westbrook. Another example came also from this All-Star game for MLB in 2016. Daniel Murphy had the better stats, some of the best stats of any second baseman in the National League. And on the last day of the season, Ben Zobrist won the second base spot for the All-Star team. Not that Ben Zobrist wasn't deserving of the spot, but Murphy was deserving of the spot since the beginning of the season, and arguably more deserving. It's just, you know, you're going to get snubs either way.
Yeah.
It's fan voting, or whether you have a computerized system, or whether you leave it to the hands of the managers or the coaches, whatever the case may be. Another concept could be, why not leave it to the players? You have a Players' Choice Award every year. So why not put that vote into the hands of the players and say, you know what? This guy is who makes our team what it is. He should be on the All-Star team.
I think that's a fantastic idea as well. Actually, the players are always they see it firsthand, so they have the best idea, in my opinion, of the team and of the league and of their own players. That's for sure. I guess we'll move on. I have what do you guys think I should do? One more baseball, or should I move on to NASCAR?
Hey, that's entirely up to you. We didn't talk about that. We haven't brought up NASCAR.
I'll say one thing though. If you bring up NASCAR, I'm probably not going to say anything.
Well, here's the thing, and that's the problem, because NASCAR has lost its appeal. There's not a lot of fans. We read about it every year. The attendance is going lower and lower and lower. It's appealing.
Yeah, that's really embarrassing when you have like these, like the Indianapolis Motor Speedway fits 250,000 people.
Yeah.
And to see the whole stadium pretty much empty, you have one section of fans and then that's it. That's kind of really embarrassing.
And that's why, you know, I'm not a big NASCAR fan. I don't watch it a lot. I know of the drivers. I'm a big fan of the video games as well, so I know of them. And so I care about it in that sense where it's like I just like to see it do well. Okay, well then let's move on to NASCAR. I've got a couple ideas for NASCAR. I'll start with one, then we can go to cowbell, then we'll come back to my second idea. So right now they have cautions. Every race is getting slowed down with cautions. It seems like every 2 laps, a piece of equipment falls on the track. It's caution. They all have to slow down and go around, and it just completely slows down the race. So this suggestion is 2 parts. 1, get rid of cautions. 2, cars can't, so they switch their tires, right? Averages about every 50 laps on a normal standard track. They switch their tires before they're even worn out. And so it's just perfect cars all the time. What if they weren't allowed to switch their tires until like there's smoke and it's coming off and there's no caution and these cars are trying to get to the pit stop, but like some sort of judge up in the stands says like, hey, now you can change because there's sparks or something. Literally let the sparks fly. What do you think, Cowbell?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Pretty much what I think happened with NASCAR. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of its history, but the car racing in the form that you see in NASCAR was wildly popular in the deep south of the United States. Very, very popular, and like a lot of other things, businessmen saw potential in it. They tried to take it to a national scale, and to some degree, it worked. I mean, I'm sure you guys, I think it's a bit before our time, but I think you've all heard or somewhat experienced the success and the popularity of racers like Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt.
They're
senior before he passed away. But somewhere along the line, all of that fell off, and NASCAR really needs something to give it that well, like you said, pretty much a figurative spark to get it going again.
Mm-hmm.
I think something like that could just really ramp up the excitement. I think it could get people watching again. And I think it could have people on the edge of their seats. Whereas before, when they would watch, all they would see were a bunch of cars going at the same speed because none of them can go above 200 miles an hour and pretty much just bunched up, just going in an oval. Whereas if you put these rules in, you put these rule changes in, you never know what's going to happen. Cars might start flying out. Sparks just might start flying out of a car. That's exciting. People would want to see something like that. I think it would be great.
It also goes back to the idea of adapting. You know, and we see in sports today, injuries, they happen all the time. And do the teams just not play a game when someone gets hurt? No, they keep going. They pinch hitter, pinch runner, substitution. We see it all the time. And yeah, you know, when it comes to racing, there are a lot more elements to consider. And I'm not really for totally eliminating the caution. I think it depends on the extent of the damage that's actually on the track. You know, but if it's something really, really simple and small that doesn't really cause any harm, doesn't really cause any damage, doesn't cause any injuries, you know, there's no need for a caution, because at some cases we see cautions go up to 5, 6, 7 laps, and it's just ruins the whole flow of everything to me when it's not really all that serious.
Yeah, I think cautions ruin it's like if you had a wrestling match, you're like, oh, stop. You got to stop for 5 minutes. It's dumb.
Which happens.
And I think it kills the momentum of a match, and it kills the momentum of a NASCAR race. That's why I say get rid of it.
It's like in today's WWE, you see matches that get stopped for blood all the time. And I look at it this way. If you get hit with a steel chair, you're going to bleed.
Yeah.
You need the blood. Like it's the couple nights ago at the Royal Rumble, we saw it. Roman Reigns gets hit right in the face with brass knuckles. He doesn't get anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think. Get rid of the cautions. It's silly. You can learn to drive around it. Cowbell, because my second NASCAR point kind of jumps on this. Do you mind if I do that one, and then we'll go to you for a couple?
That's absolutely fine.
So if you guys are on board with that, this next one is a little bit, maybe you'd have to widen the track a little bit, but that's not too hard to do. So here's how I see it. Most races, you have 500 laps or 400 laps. I'm suggesting that at the quarter mark of these races, so a 500 lap race, that'd be 125, 250, 375. As soon as you hit past your 125th lap, you finish it, you kind of pull off to the left and you turn around and you start going the other way for the next quarter. And
Wow.
then when you finish that, get going around. Now think of that. Think of the potential there. Not only do you have maybe no cautions, maybe no spark, or you have sparks, you have all this, but you have cars going in both ways. So it adds an element of controlled chaos. And I don't even like the word chaos. Controlled frenzy. It's still auto racing. It's still fast. It's still furious. It's still Days of Thunder. But it's this whirling, almost like a tornado in a sense. And you can't go to sleep and wake up and say, oh, it's 300 laps later and he's still in first. No, you got cars whizzing by each other, and you have to follow. You have to be paying attention on TV. And they'll be whizzing and they'll be gunning past each other 200 miles an hour, and it'll just be wild. And then they have to switch back, and they do that. And, I mean, it's like, holy crap. Cowbell, what do you think of that?
Man, you want to talk about innovative and exciting. That's something that I don't think that many people would think of to really, just sort of bring NASCAR back to life. But, you came up with it. That's absolutely brilliant, and good on you for it. I think that's absolutely tremendous. I mean, you want to talk about a real test of skill. You want to talk about something that would really just get eyes on the product. Something like that is certainly it. I mean, sure, you're used to seeing the same thing for 500 laps, but you throw something like that right in the middle, you turn the excitement up by 10. I mean, you could only imagine just the ratings would absolutely just skyrocket.
They would skyrocket.
Are you going to be testing drivers' reaction times? I mean, they're going to have cars coming at them at 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to have to be dodging those suckers like you wouldn't believe. Not only are you going to be testing that, but you're going to be throwing off everything they know about those tracks. I mean, sure, they might have them memorized already, but they've never gone the other way on those tracks, especially after going half of a race, knowing exactly where they have to be, where they have to speed up, and where they have to slow down. You now take that and you flip that all around. It just ramps up the challenge so much more, but I think it would be in a way that would help out the race, and in the end would just make NASCAR so much more exciting and so much more fun to watch.
Well, and the other thing before Matt jumps in too is, what's the joke about NASCAR? Oh, you only watch it for the accidents. Well, you're going to have some accidents. You're going to have some head-on collisions, but, the cars, they make them today, they're so good that you don't even have to worry about head-on collisions. The drivers will be safe, but it'll look wild. And I think...
Yeah, top-of-the-line cars.
Mm-hmm. So, Matt, what do you think? I think it's, Cowbell said, I think it's innovative. I think it's exciting. I think it's a way to bring NASCAR back.
It sounds like a circus act, and I actually like it. Yeah, like you said, innovative, different, definitely could be entertaining. I also think that just to overall improve NASCAR, just you can use that. I would also like to see them shorten the number of laps. You don't need 500 laps. You can do with 400, 300, even less than that. But yeah, your idea is fine, I guess.
Oh, that's good to know. I mean, there'll be complaints about driver safety. I think those would be overblown, to be honest. So, well, Cowbell, if you've got, let's go to you for a couple, two.
Yeah, and I think you'll particularly like this one, Brett, because it deals with hockey. That's always been your bread and butter. like many other sports, there's a lot of talk with the NHL about how the game has gotten pretty far away from, a couple decades back, especially with Gretzky in his prime. The success of the players is so much harder to measure than when Gretzky was in his prime, just doing these amazing things, because the rules have changed so much. And what it means to score all these goals has changed so much. And there's a lot of fans that don't like it. There's a lot of fans that want to go back to the more gritty style of hockey. And I think that there's a way to sort of accommodate a newer way of playing the game while also bringing back the grit and the pretty much the difficulty of scoring a goal. And pretty much what that would be altering the ice, altering the rink itself. And I think that it would add a whole other level of difficulty to the game if during every game the referees would take it upon themselves to take certain spots on the ice, a diameter of maybe about only like 5 feet or so, but make it just about a 5-foot diameter circle of spots where the ice is more melted and is not solid than the rest of the ice. I think this would up the difficulty to a whole new level, and it would really make fans appreciate when they see a goal. And it would make the players scoring them appreciate it so much more. They're going to see those stats, and they're going to know that they earned it, because it's going to be so much harder to navigate that ice. And I think a lot of people don't understand just how hard it is to control your body when you're on that ice as well. With this, they're going to definitely know that these are some prime world-class athletes out there, and they are able to do some amazing things, because not only are they moving around on ice, they're moving around on melted ice that could mess them up.
I think that's, having played hockey my entire life, all levels of hockey, having coached it, having written it, watched it, I think that's a great idea. People don't really respect goals as much as they used to. And so maybe increasing the difficulty in order to do it by melting certain sections of the ice would increase the honor and prestige of actually scoring a goal. People, they hear of a 20-goal scorer and they go, oh, well, that guy's a bum. And to me, that's always pissed me off. It always makes me angry. That guy's not a bum. That guy's a 20-goal scorer. So if you did this and you had certain sections where it's like, okay, that's a hazard section, that's a lower section where there's cement there. You can't skate on cement. You're going to hit your face when you're there. The difficulty is ramped up considerably. And like you said, but when you score a goal, it's going to be like, you know what? He skated through about a puddle. He skated through a puddle, and then he skated through a little convex or concave portion of the ice. Then he slid on his knees across the cement in the corner, and then he scored the goal. Like, you're talking goal of the year, night in, night out, of just amazing plays, difficult plays, plays that SportsCenter will love. Hockey does not get a lot of play on Sportsnet in the States. You want it to get play. Here you go. We got a little bit of everything. I think that's a terrific idea. And like you said, the refs could do it. They every single hockey rink has blowtorches, because players will curve their stick blades. They light it with the blowtorch. They'll curve it. They could use those. They're on hand anyways. Meth?
I think that's a little too over the top. But I see what you're saying. It again goes back to that idea of adaptability, where you have to adapt to the conditions. You see bad weather all the time, so it would add another element to hockey. Going back to your point of hockey recognition in the States, yeah, it's a travesty that hockey just does not get the attention, the recognition that it needs. And a lot of that, like you said, is because of the play itself. So, I think the idea itself, though, a little bit too much, but I get your point.
I think it's really innovative, and I'm on board.
Yeah, I'm disappointed to hear that you think it might be a little too much for the game. But, I mean, then again, you come up with ideas like this. A lot of people are going to think that. And,
yeah.
I mean, there's really no way to know until you give it a try. But in the end, I think it would add back the level of grit that the old school hockey fans were used to. And I think it could bring it to the modern day.
Well, and Cowbell, seeing some of the enforcers of yesteryear be forced out of the game because there is no spot for grit in hockey today, it breaks my heart. And so to find a way to get them back in, because they'll skate through cement, they'll find a way. They'll deal with hills and caves and melted water. They'll fight through it, and get them back into work. Get them back into the league. And they have families, and I always feel bad for the hockey enforcer, least respected job in sports. And if your idea puts food on that family's table, and I'm on board. So, do you have one more, Cowbell?
I think I do, but I'd like to hear another one of yours.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch my bearings, because I know I am George. It's a story for a different story, but George LaRocque, former Edmonton Oilers player, enforcer, and I just think of him and his family, and John Scott and his family. So your idea actually did touch me quite a bit. So, okay, here's one. This one is also, sorry, I wrote these down. Actually, let's go back to baseball. I got another one for baseball. I really like this one. I think you guys are going to like it. Matt, you're the resident baseball expert. I think you're going to really like it. So here's what I'm thinking. You have, however many pitches in an at-bat. It varies. What if we want to increase the offense in baseball? It's been said. I think lowering the mound in baseball is too radical right now. I think putting it further back is too radical. What I think is it's a very small adjustment, but it's something that's going to force the hand of the pitcher, and it's going to open it up. On the third pitch of every at-bat, some at-bats won't get to the third pitch, but a lot do. On the third pitch of every at-bat, the pitcher must – this is where there's flexibility. The pitcher must either throw a strike. If it's a ball on the third pitch of the at-bat, no matter what the count is, batter gets first base. If it's a strike, it's a strike. But the batter's going to know he's probably getting a strike. Or if you think that's still too easy for the pitcher, on the third pitch of an at-bat, the pitcher must restrict the speed of the throw. You can decide on the miles per hour. If it's called a ball, the batter is awarded first base. So you're going to get these pitches coming in there on the third pitch of it at bat in the strike zone, and you could even limit it to be like, no, pitch has to be slower than 80 miles per hour. Otherwise, the batter gets first base. Well, Cowbell, before we go to Matt, what do you think?
Well, I for one,
admiring your beard.
This is what I do when I'm thinking very hard. Certainly, weighing the pros and cons of Bret's idea, and I can't find many cons with this. I think that would be a tremendous improvement to the game. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot of strategy that goes into pitching and batting to some degree. The way it is, you put this in there, that's another level of complexity to the entire game. It's another level of complexity when it comes to the struggle between the at-bat and the pitcher. I think it builds on the overall tension. I think it gives fans something more to look forward to, especially in a game that isn't always that fast-paced. I think that's something that can really change things up. I think it would just add a lot of flavor and, again, like you said, a little bit more leniency to people who are at bat. I think it would just mix things up in a good way.
Matt, what do you think?
Hold on one second. Bret, as we're talking, I'm going to mute you. For some reason, we're echoing. So, anyway, I think that there should just be some sort of a batter pitch count in a way, and it kind of goes along with what you're saying. Here's something that's a little bit different. I think that each batter should get 5 pitches. If he doesn't do anything within those 5 pitches, it's an out. Maybe that could work. It also limits like pitcher injuries because they don't have to worry about pitching, big pitch count. Like people go up to 110, 120 pitches all the time. That leads them to get hurt. I think there should be something that controls that. I see your idea too, though. I'll give you that.
Well, I think, I think your idea with the 5 pitches, I think that rewards the pitcher. And I understand that. I don't think the pitcher should be rewarded. I think the pitcher should be, because of how much defense and pitching has taken over the game, almost punished in a sense. I think in sort of a, how could I describe it? Not metaphorical, but almost like a subconscious form of justice towards what pitching's done to the game. We went from the great steroid era of Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, where home runs were just getting crushed every inning, and Sammy Sosa and whatnot. And now it seems like, I mean, yeah, strikeout's nice, but these pitchers, they get so much flexibility. They get to hammer in pitches 100 miles an hour, right wherever they want. They get to put it in even certain strikes. The strike zone is so big that certain strikes, you can hit that for a single, at least a single if you want to, let alone a home run. And so I think it's almost been the reverse steroid era. I think we're going to look back on this era in baseball almost as like the unbelievable pitching era. But it's not cheating because it's within the rules, much like steroids didn't get tested, so that was technically in the rules. But I think we're going to look at, like, these pitchers are almost abusing the game. They throw it at the knees and they get strikes. They throw it above the shoulders, they get strikes. So my idea was just like, well, how, like, we could not punish them, but, throw to Jose Bautista and he's going to tear he's going to send that ball to outer space because he knows where it's coming. And I think I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that one. The rules change. There's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of times, it is a trial and error sort of way of doing it. And I think a lot of people would agree that in recent years that there has been a bit of a lull in the excitement, especially because everybody always compares it to the steroid era, but that was when the fans started coming back, because the MLB was almost on the way out, and that really brought things back. It got fans back in the stands, and they were there. They wanted to catch those home run balls. They wanted to watch history and stuff like that, and that went away. And a lot of people blame the pitchers for that. So, yeah, maybe this would be just sort of a way of getting back at them for changing the game in a way that a lot of people didn't appreciate.
Yeah, I get your point. I definitely see that.
Cowbell, do you have one?
Yes, I do. And this one also relates to baseball. So the thing that I always thought could really help, and this ties back to the whole steroid era thing. Obviously, home runs are a very exciting part of the game. I always thought it was interesting how Fenway Park is so famous for the Green Monster, and it's a real feat if when anybody's able to get that ball up over the wall. I always thought, what if stadiums made an effort to make the outer limits of their outfield, that outer wall, more exciting, more challenging. You know what I mean? Maybe have some sections that just shoot straight up about 70 feet in the air, and then maybe just some sections that are pretty low. Like be able to reward guys for having both power and accuracy. Maybe have like fun things that they can hit on the wall. That they light up and stuff. I think people would like that. People like shiny things and stuff like that. Again, this is a game that's sort of slow paced at times. dare I say, can even you know, dip into levels of boring for quite long periods of time. And I think something like this, where you know, you turn on the game, you know what stadium it's in, you know what kind of fun zany things are awaiting for anybody who's able to get that ball out there. I think you can help to interest level up a little higher than it was, and I think it would just help to make the game a bit more fun overall.
Well, before Brett goes, like I see that, and I think the MLB sees that too, because now you're getting like all these newer stadiums like Marlins Park and Target Field, and even the new SunTrust Park that's going to open in Atlanta. They're making it, you know, there's a lot of sections with low walls, and then there's that one section with a high wall, and it's like, you know, then you hear it from the commentators all the time. Oh, how can any hitter hit it over that wall? How is anybody going to hit it over the wall? And well, you know what? They do it.
Yeah,
and
nobody's gonna with an attitude like that.
It adds like a shock value to that. Like, wow, we thought this was impossible, but hey, it's done. Yeah, you're seeing a lot of parks do that today, and I completely see your point. I think that hopefully this trend continues because, again, it adds more elements. It you know, it makes the hitters adjust a little bit. It makes the pitchers adjust a little bit. So yeah, I'm all for that.
If you guys know me at all, you'll know I have kind of a feud. Yeah, you could call it a feud with the Milwaukee Brewers, because I've never really liked the franchise. I think they're kind of just like a.
I don't think anyone does.
Yeah, they're kind of just a boring know-nothing franchise. And since I was probably about 15, I've had this dream to one day purchase the Milwaukee Brewers and move them out of Milwaukee. I want them out of there.
Probably a smart idea.
Exactly. I could craft them in my own likening, how I see them, how they should be. And one of my dreams, it's interesting that you brought this up, Cowbell, is a stadium that fits this new exciting criteria, but the outer wall is actually, think of it like a city skyline, where you have skinny rectangles with openings, where it's really low, like Fenway, where there's the really low wall, but then really high. And you'd have about 6 or 7 really high ones, and in between them, 6 or 7 really low walls. And so if you could get one through that hole, you'd get a home run. But if you happen to be on where the skyscraper one is, you'd have to hit it over. And that would be one wall. And then maybe you could have other areas like that. But I would call it the skyline wall. And it would be a site just to see, same as the Green Monster. And people would come from all over baseball land to see the wall, the skyline wall. And I'd probably put that in Vancouver.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Meffy, how much longer do you want to go? Do you mind if I take a quick break? Brianna needs help with something.
Yeah, you can take a break. Yeah, I don't really plan on going for much longer.
Okay.
Right with you, because I still have a lot of stuff to do for tomorrow, and
Yeah, so does she.
not a lot of time to do it.
Let's why don't we do a quick if you're okay with this, Cowbell, a quick 2-minute just fire off quick ideas, and then we can just close it off.
Just give me like 5 minutes. I'll be right back. She's trying to submit something so she can try to get into grad school, and it's due at midnight. So I'm gonna go read it real fast, and I'll be right back.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Are you able to you're able to edit all of this?
Yes, I can edit all of this out.
Okay.
So yeah, we're live right now, but yeah, we're live, but we're not like the viewer, and there's no viewers.
That's good. What else do you have to do tonight?
5-page paper due tomorrow.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Have you started it?
Yes.
Okay.
I've started it, but yeah. It's the first big assignment for the class, so I kind of make a good first impression.
What time is it due at?
9:30.
Are you going to be able to get it done?
Yeah, probably. It may take an all-nighter, but I'll do it.
Jesus, if I would have known that, I would have said, let's delay this.
That's all right. I'd rather get it done as soon as possible than like not get it done. If I remember correctly, Saturday didn't work for cowbell. And it doesn't work for me anymore.
Huh.
Yeah, you're actually really up. So anytime we talk, I hear myself. Anytime we talk,
Weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, it is weird. So anytime like we're talking and
Good.
yeah.
I don't get why it's echoing. That's really strange because it's not even like I have my volume out. It's really weird.
Yeah, it was fine for the majority of the podcast, but once we started to get further along, it started.
Weird.
Yeah.
It's even slowing down on my end now, which is really strange. So.
Wait, what'd you say? I'm sorry.
My Wi-Fi is full. Like, it's slowing down on my end. I don't know why. Wi-Fi is full, so who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, I mean, like looking at the stream and everything, looking at like the quality of the camera, we had a couple of spots where like the screen was frozen, but you could still hear us. So I don't really think that's an issue. So, you know.
That's good. I think I saw the one of the Unlimiteds. How did it, like, what's the overall quality of this? Like, do you like it, or is it podcasts up for this?
Google Hangouts really isn't that great of a thing to use. I just use it because
and free.
Yeah, pretty much. Because then eventually, like if I wanted to take this podcast to a new level, which I'm planning to do like after I'm done with college, then I'll invest in like actual equipment and stuff like that. But for now, this is pretty much what it is.
Yeah, the podcast I did last week, it was like over the phone. It was weird. God. So the quality was bad.
Yeah, I could only imagine.
Like he was able to edit it pretty good. I think they use like a third party company that's like kind of it hosts it or edits it or produces it or something that kind of helps edit it. But still, so next time I'm going to use Skype. I heard if you use Skype, it works a lot better. And then, like, for his phone call, I'll use Skype, and hopefully that headphone works. And, like, I don't know. I'll get an actual mic, but I don't know.
Because right now, pretty much just using anything I can get.
Whatever's free and affordable on a student budget.
Yes, absolutely. One that won't.
How many years do you have left?
This is my last semester.
That's good. Oh yeah, you said that you applied for your last class.
Yep. Or last bunch of classes, but yeah, I got yours.
Are you going to grad school?
Probably not. I don't really know like what I'm gonna do after this, but we'll see. Whatever door opens.
Well, you're still writing for MLB, like that MLB, right? Like site?
Yeah, the fansided.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm planning on doing after I'm done with the work that's due tomorrow, I'm gonna do a big 6 articles in the span of a couple of days, going over the division standings, how I think they're going to play out. I started with the American League West because I think that that's going to be the tightest division. Because you got the Rangers, you got the Mariners, you got the Astros. You never know what the A's are going to do. And then you have the Angels, who has the best player in the MLB. So,
yeah, I think that AL West, like the Mariners, in my opinion, got a lot better. I think they got way better. And And then, yeah, like you said, the Rangers, I don't think they should fall off a total, like they won't fall off a cliff. Astros should have been better than they were last year.
And they made a lot of moves, though.
Yeah, so they should be back to where they should be. Said like that division will be good. It usually is pretty good. 2 years ago, like the Mariners just missed out on the playoffs there. 3-team race. And I would think this year it's going to be really tight. But that Mariners team, like I watch a lot of their games. I would say I probably watched about 90 of their games last year. And like they were close. They were really like they had a good team. They
fought like a playoff team.
Yeah, I loved watching them. And the only thing that scares me is Cano had a crazy offensive year last year. Can he like replicate that? That was a big part of their success.
Yeah.
Cruz, I think he's one of those typical like home run hitters. I think he should be fine. He was awesome last year. So
yeah, he's the usual pull power hitter.
Exactly.
With no defense whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. Cowbell's back.
Cowbells.
You are, matey.
Okay, I hear you. Good. All right, want to do some rapid fire?
Yeah, let's do rapid fire. Yay, nay. Like just yay, nay.
No explanation needed?
No explanation needed. If you guys want to react.
Yes, absolutely.
Couple sentences,
sure.
Go ahead. But I'm not even going to I can even introduce it, like be like, okay, it's time for a little bit of rapid fire, but I'm not even going to explain it. So it doesn't get a preface. It is what it is.
No problem.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. All right. So to close it out, let's do a little bit of rapid fire. We talked about a lot of broader ideas, but let's get, these are ideas Cabell and I came up with. Obviously didn't make it into the full explanation on today's show or today's podcast. But I think they're still worthy of attention. So I'll shout them out. Quick reactions from you guys, and we'll try and get through as many of these as we can before we have to go. I'll say the sport, and I'll say the
change.
The change. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Baseball. No more wooden bats, metal, aluminum, or some other more potent substance than wood.
Hey, that's what we're moving towards. Gotta get away from traditional at some point. I like it.
Yeah, I agree. You see colleges and high schools. They use steel bats. So why do they use MLB?
Perfect. Baseball again. Catchers have to be standing when the pitch is made, and then as the pitch is made, they can move down into the position to make the block or save.
I actually see that as a bit of an entire style change where maybe people will just begin to just dip their glove down and just stay in the standing position. How much easier will that make it if they have to make that emergency throw? I like it.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I'm going to say no to this one, though. I see what you're getting at, though. Okay. Basketball. Let's go to basketball. Allow players to throw the ball at the opposition, almost like dodgeball, to kind of throw off the opposition a little bit.
Sure, it's not a contact sport. I mean, they can afford to take some hits. It's just a rubber ball, but if you've been hit with a basketball, I mean, it's got some firmness to it. I think it'll be enough to jar somebody, but not really knock them for a loop. So I think it'll be a good addition. I like it.
Here's an idea to kind of go off of that. Get rid of the kicked ball violation. Please, for the love of God. Most of the time, it's not in their control. They just randomly kick the ball by accident, and yet they get called for it. Like, what the hell? Like, yeah, I see what you're getting at, but for me, the kicked ball violation needs to go. In terms of what you're saying, yeah, I kind of agree with that too. All right. ban players from jumping in the first and third quarters. Quarters are negotiable, but you know.
That's also not a bad one. If you haven't attended a live sporting event before, I mean, you might not think about it watching other people, but it does become tiring. I mean, I think you just lending people a favor, saying conserve your energy for when it matters most. I like it.
You mean like having a tip-off? Like, what did you mean by jumping?
Quarter, no jumping.
I don't know, honestly.
That's all right. Yeah, it's a little bit of a radical idea. That's for sure. Okay, let's go to hockey. Increase the nets in size 3 feet each way. More soccer-like.
Yes.
Oh, I agree again. I mean, we talked about it before. I mean, as far as testing the skills of the players, everybody knows what a horribly difficult job the goalies have, but why not ramp up the difficulty even more? And if they can't hack it, well, then there's going to be more goals and people are going to get more excited anyway. I like it.
Yeah, it presents more of a challenge to the goalie. You know, it's like soccer, you have all that room, and yet people still miss shots. In hockey, it's not going to be any different. Yeah, I like it.
We talked about how hockey it's not as popular in the States as we'd like it to. Quick opinion on your guys is, do you think it's the name hockey that's holding it back?
I think it might not be the name itself. I mean, yeah, admittedly, I mean, it's with what's going on in this country. I mean, you might say that the average IQ of the American has gone down a bit, so that might be a possibility. Maybe changing it to puck net or net puck, or just something that you could grasp the premise of the game in 0.5 seconds. Maybe that would help a bit. I'd be open to a name change.
To me, even when it was most popular, it was hockey. So a name change, I don't really know how that would help or hurt, but I'm not really open to that.
Or like Cowbell said, puck net. Like you have football, baseball, basketball, iced canes. Sort of like it sort of fits that mold better. You wouldn't be down with that.
I mean, yeah, it does fit, but you know, I think that when hockey was at its most popular, you know, it was hockey. It's just always been known like that. I don't really see a change necessary to me.
No, that's all good. That makes sense. Hockey is a nice word. Okay, let's go to football. Have only 8 players on the field for each team at once.
Yeah, you know that there's so much room out there, but you wouldn't know it with 11 players on each side. And we were talking about how the NFL could really use a change in something right now because viewership's going down. A lot of people don't have trust in that administration. Cut out the amount of linemen, maybe. Along those lines, you know, that could just again just open up the speed and the pace of the game. I like it.
Yeah, too many players on the field. Let's cut that. Like you said about the NFL as a whole, any change that they can have right now is sufficient, no matter what it is. Because yeah, the quality has really gone down. Yeah, like you said, the administration they don't have a lot of faith in the administration for obvious reasons because Goodell is in charge. But yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. This one, because I can't explain it, so it might sound a little wacky, but this is still for football. A quarterback can, on downs 1 to 3, choose to throw the ball and hit a goalpost. If he does, his team is awarded 2 points, but must perform the ensuing kickoff from an onside formation. Doesn't mean they have to onside kick it, but the formation has to be of onside nature.
I really like this. We've seen the idea of possibilities and options opening up as far as coaching strategies, and again with play calling strategies from QBs, with the change to the overtime rules, this would just be another option for QBs and coaches to take, which is always good in my opinion. Tests out accuracy for the quarterback. I mean, the defense would have to to keep a lookout for that. I think it would shake the game up in a good way. And then again, it even changes up the kickoff, which sometimes becomes a little too routine. So yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, it's going to depend on like the spot of the ball, the spot of the players, but yeah, another way to score, why not?
Okay. Let's move on to tennis. Get rid of the nets.
Yeah, you know what? You think about it, that's another game that's always been lagging behind in popularity. And I think we pretty much have it pinned down what it takes to make a sport popular. I mean, you got to ramp up the energy, you got to ramp up the excitement. If you get rid of the net, then those players are going to be able to beam that ball as hard as they possibly can all the time. No restrictions means the possibilities open up. And if that happens, then I think it would make the game so much better to watch. I like it.
Yeah, I'm not really going to go into it because just not really a big tennis fan, but ditto.
Okay, one more tennis fan. Unfortunately, you're not a tennis guy, but I think this one makes a lot of sense. You have doubles tennis. What if you did quadruples tennis? Same court size, but 4 per side.
Man, could you imagine? I mean, you want to talk about trying to find the best way to play the game. I mean, this was when MMA became popular. Now people were always talking about what's the dominant style going to be. I think it would be really interesting to see, the teams of 4 players trying to figure out the best way to make it work on a court of that size. I mean, maybe they all bunch up by the back and maybe just swing just with their wrists, or maybe they spread out a bit, work on something with a little more finesse in it, something a little more complicated. I think it'd be very exciting and the sport.
Yeah, it's kind of in a way like volleyball. You have 6 players, I believe, in volleyball, and they have to set up their plays to kind of intertwine with each other. It would definitely be a challenge. I would like to see triples. Quadruples, though, if triples is successful, yeah, introduce that too. Why not? Add another element.
Actually, and this is the last one. This is a sport very near and dear to my heart, horse racing, something I've been involved in my whole life. We talked earlier about bloodthirsty fans. Well, I think they're looking for a little bit more action, a little bit more excitement, a little bit more vulnerability. Imagine a Kentucky Derby where jockeys were allowed to try and push and kick the other jockeys off the horse. They're always really close together. I think it adds a new strategy. As someone who's been behind horses and been involved in races, I know what it kind of means to sit back there and you're literally jockeying for position, and you know maybe that other horse is going to beat you, but he's not necessarily going to beat you if you can send him to the ground flying. So maybe that's your best bet. I think that's a good idea. What do you guys think? Last one.
You know what? Sign me up. That sounds entertaining as hell.
Yeah. I think the idea is tremendous. I mean, it's such a. I know for a fact that for the jockeys, the race is a terribly intense situation, and that's without any contact. And you throw that in there, I mean, you're just going to be letting out that intensity that you guys are all feeling inside. And all of you have those whips in your hands anyway. You might as well use them on other jockeys. I mean, what's the worst that happens? They fall off the horse and they get trampled a bit. Well, all the horses are running as fast as they can. I mean, it's not like they're going to be walking all over you the whole time. They're going to run past you. You'll be out of danger by that point. And you got to toughen up a bit. I mean, I know they're all tiny dudes, but come on. I mean, if your arms and legs are too short to hit other people, again, you got those whips. Yeah, sure. I mean, just add a bit of toughness and intensity into those races. I like it.
I agree.
Well,
just keep it at that.
And for me, like I see it as you're racing, 1,000-pound animals that are ferocious and fierce. They are tough. They're intense. They are wild. They are tamed but untamed, unbridled. And I think that you should match that sort of passion. I think it'd be again, controlled, violent chaos, but in a beautiful way that would tell a much better story.
I agree.
Ditto. That it?
That's it.
Is that it? Okay.
Well, this has been a very fun and interesting episode of the Unlimited podcast. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to all of you who made the first 2 editions of the podcast a success. Thanking Walter, Maine, and John, Mr. Charisma from Anything Go Show. Obviously, thanking Bret and Cowbell today. This has been fun as always. I hope to do more of these with you. I will say that the next edition of the podcast will be coming the day before Elimination Chamber, where I'm going to sit down with a special guest to not only preview the Elimination Chamber, but also recap the Major League Baseball offseason. So be ready for that. That's coming soon. And then immediately following the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, there will be another episode of the podcast where I'm going to sit down with a special guest to review the Chamber pay-per-view. So look out for that over the next couple of weeks. You guys have anything else to say?
Cowbell, if you want to go first, I just have like a little sign off, but.
I just wanted to say it was great talking to you guys, and I hope that maybe these ideas will reach the ears of promoters and team owners and league administrations all over the country, and hopefully it'll reach them and the fans, and they'll take some of our ideas into consideration.
Exactly. That's what I'm hoping. We're very passionate about it. The truth is we live in a very high-definition technology sort of society. You're seeing it now with this podcast, HD TV. This is where we want to be, and this is where we want sports to be. You have digital streaming of online shows. It's all your favorite things, all in one. Sports are meant to be evolutionized. And that's my final sign off. Thanks for having me on here. HD TV, it's where I want to be.
All righty then. For Cowbell and for Bret, I'm Matt from Unlimited. You've watched the Unlimited podcast.
How come the live button didn't go off?